The animus, man in woman. The animus in Carl Jung's analytical psychology is a concept that represents the inner masculine aspect within the psyche of a woman. It is the counterpart to the anima, which is the inner feminine aspect within the psyche of a man. The animus is not a specific person or entity, but rather a symbolic representation of masculine qualities, characteristics, and potentials that reside in a woman's unconscious mind. The animus can manifest in various forms, such as masculine figures, symbols, or archetypal characters in dreams, fantasies, and personal experiences. It embodies qualities like logic, assertiveness, rationality, and intellectual pursuits. The development and integration of the animus are crucial for a woman's psychological growth and self-realization. It involves recognizing, understanding, and integrating these masculine aspects into her conscious personality, allowing for a more balanced and harmonious inner life. The animus problem. The contemporary psychological challenge for women primarily revolves around their relationship with the animus, referring to the masculine intellectual aspect. This challenge arises as the expansion of consciousness across all domains becomes an inevitable and valuable demand in our era. This is evident not only through the discoveries and innovations of the past half-century, but also in the emergence of the women's movement, seeking gender equality with men. Fortunately, we've progressed beyond the negative outcome of this struggle, recognizing that a woman's path should not be an attempt to emulate men, but an authentic expression of her femininity. Nevertheless, a certain measure of the masculine spirit has matured within a woman's consciousness, necessitating a rightful place and purpose within her personality. The animus journey involves exploring and integrating these elements, allowing them to contribute meaningfully to her life. Understanding and harmonizing these factors are essential aspects of addressing the animus challenge. This is the main point. Even if things seem different on the surface, it's important to recognize that during significant moments, there may be unsuccessful attempts and extreme exaggerations. Don't be surprised or discouraged by them. If the core issue isn't addressed, and a woman doesn't respond well to the need for awareness and thoughtful involvement, the animus can become autonomous and have harmful effects on both the individual and her relationships. In simpler terms, if the opportunity for spiritual and intellectual growth isn't consciously embraced, the energy meant for these purposes ends up in the unconscious. This activates the animus archetype. With this accumulated energy, the animus becomes powerful enough to overpower the conscious mind and take control over the entire personality. Figuratively, managing one's life is like handling a budget, allocating resources for specific purposes. Sometimes, funds initially designated for certain uses becomes available again. This analogy applies to modern women facing challenges in finding spiritual and intellectual fulfillment in traditional religious institutions. Modern women encounter challenges in seeking spiritual and intellectual fulfillment within traditional religious institutions, particularly in the Protestant tradition. The Church, once a satisfying source, no longer meets their needs as effectively. In the past, challenges linked to the animus could be projected onto the divine, often symbolizing by the biblical Father God. As long as spirituality aligned with the accepted religious norms, conflicts remain subdued. However, the contemporary challenge arises because the conventional means of expressing spirituality is no longer as effective. An additional aspect involves the introduction of birth control, liberating a significant amount of energy. It remains unclear whether a woman can accurately gauge the size of this reservoir, once utilized to maintain a constant state of readiness for her biological role. A third influential factor arises from technological advancements that have replaced various tasks once requiring a woman's inventiveness and creative spirit. Tasks like kindling a hearth fire, once symbolizing a Promethean act, are now simplified with gas switches or electrical buttons. This practical innovation, while efficient, often leaves women unaware of the sacrifices and consequences associated with these advancements. When intellectual demands confront some women, they may initially prefer having another child, seeking to evade or delay the uncomfortable challenge. However, adaptation becomes inevitable as biological demands progressively wane after the first half of life, preventing the onset of neurosis or other illnesses. It's not just the newfound psychic energy that poses a challenge. The concept of the time moment, or kairos, an unavoidable and often unclear moment we all must face, adds to the complexity. In our current era, there's a perceived need for increased awareness, leading psychology to delve into the discovery and thorough investigation of the unconscious. Animus in relationships, eros and logos. Similar to how the mother often serves as the initial carrier of the projection-making factor for her son, the father assumes this role for the daughter. Practical experiences in these relationships vary widely, resulting in diverse individual cases with unique variations on the same fundamental theme. Describing them consciously can only be schematic. In women, compensation occurs through a masculine element, imprinting their unconscious with a masculine influence. This establishes a significant psychological difference between men and women, termed the animus in women. The animus can be understood as a projection-making factor, representing the mind or spirit in women. The animus corresponds to the paternal logos, much like the anima corresponds to the maternal eros. The terms eros and logos are employed as conceptual tools to illustrate that women's consciousness is more characterized by the connecting qualities of eros than the discernment and cognition associated with logos. In men, the function of relationship, eros, is typically less developed than discernment, logos. Conversely, in women, eros is an expression of their true nature, while their logos is often regarded as a regrettable accident. This can lead to misunderstandings and annoying interpretations in family and social circles because women's logos consist of opinions rather than reflections, with a tendency towards absolute truth claims causing irritation. Given that the animus is inclined toward argumentation, its influence is most evident in disputes where both parties adamantly assert their correctness. Men may adopt argumentative styles reminiscent of women when influenced by their anima, essentially becoming the animus of their own anima. In such situations, disputes often revolve around personal vanity and touchiness, resembling female behavior. Women, having already addressed vanity through dressmaking and hairstyling, shift their focus to power-related issues in arguments, whether pertaining to truth, justice, or other ideologies. In female arguments, the father, symbolizing conventional opinions, holds a significant role. Regardless of how open a woman's eros, relationship-oriented aspect, might be, her stance becomes unwavering when influenced by the animus. In such cases, men may feel that only seduction, force, or coercion would have the necessary persuasive power. However, they might not realize that stepping back could lead to a quick and uneventful resolution, especially if another woman, perhaps the wife, continues the debate, provided that she is not as confrontational. The sensible idea of stepping back rarely occurs to a man because engaging with the animus leads him to become a victim of his own anima. Anyone with enough humor to objectively listen to the ensuing dialogue would be surprised by the abundance of common and overused phrases, misused truths, cliches from various sources, worn-out sayings, and illogical statements. This type of conversation happens repeatedly worldwide and remains essentially the same. When the animus and anima meet, the animus asserts his sword of power, and the anima her poison of illusion and seduction. The outcome may not always be negative. The two can equally fall in love, a unique form of love at first sight. Despite using well-worn formulas in the language of love, the partners believe they are in an individual and special relationship, even though the situation is often quite ordinary. The relationship between the anima and animus is filled with emotion, both positive and negative, making it collective. Emotions bring the connection closer to common instinctual tendencies, losing its individuality. Often, the relationship runs its course without the participants realizing, leaving them confused afterward. For men, the cloud of animosity is often composed of sentimentality and resentment. In women, it manifests as opinionated views, interpretations, insinuations, and misconstructions with the purpose of sometimes successfully severing connections between two individuals. Both men and women can become ensnared in a veil of illusions created by their inner demons. In the context of a daughter's relationship with her father, she may feel eternally right and, in a sense, be guided by her animus, akin to following the shepherd of her soul, leading to a metaphorical land of sheep. The negative animus. Women with a negative animus often repeat a common theme in their thoughts, expressing variations like, "All I want is love, and he doesn't love me," or, "In this situation, there are only two equally bad possibilities. With the animus, there are no exceptions." Challenging an animus opinion is difficult because it's generally correct, but may not align with individual circumstances. Similar to how a man's anima is influenced by his mother, a woman's animus is shaped by her father, infusing it with convictions that overshadow her personal reality and feelings. This dynamic makes the animus, like the anima, a powerful psychological force. An unconscious animus perspective can lead to peculiar passivity, emotional paralysis, or profound insecurity bordering on emptiness. Within a woman's inner self, the animus may subtly convey messages like, "You are hopeless, there is no point in trying, life will never get better." When these thoughts take hold, they feel like their own, and the ego becomes so entwined that it can't recognize them objectively. It's only after this influence fades that the realization hits. Actions and words were contrary to the genuine thoughts and feelings. One becomes aware of being under the influence of a foreign psychic element. The animus is often symbolized as a collective entity represented by a group of men, emphasizing its nature as a shared or collective force rather than a personal one. When women are influenced by their animus, their language and speech patterns often reflect this collective perspective. They tend to use terms such as one, they, or everybody, and their expressions often includes words like always, should, and ought. This linguistic tendency suggests a broader generalized viewpoint influenced by the collective nature of the animus rather than a purely individual perspective. Positive animus. Similar to the positive aspect of the anima, the animus also has a constructive role. Represented through the father figure, the animus conveys not only conventional opinions but also spiritual elements, including philosophical or religious ideas and resulting attitudes. The animus acts as a psychopomp mediating between the conscious and unconscious, embodying the latter. Just as the integration of the anima transforms into the eros of consciousness, the animus transforms into a logos. In parallel to how the anima imparts connection and relatedness to a man's consciousness, the animus grants a woman's consciousness the abilities of reflection, deliberation, and self-awareness. Like the anima, the animus isn't solely characterized by negative qualities, but also possesses positive aspects. Through creative activities, the animus can construct a bridge to the self. Frequently, the heroine in tales is restricted from questioning her mysterious lover or husband. She might encounter him only in the dark and is forbidden from looking at him. The belief is that blindly loving and trusting him will redeem her bridegroom, yet this attempt always fails. She eventually breaks her promise, embarking on a challenging quest and enduring much suffering to reunite with her lover. In real life, addressing a woman's animus issue demands significant time and entails considerable suffering. However, understanding the animus's nature and its impact can transform it into a valuable inner companion. This transformed animus endows her with masculine qualities like initiative, courage, objectivity, and spiritual wisdom. Similar to the anima, the animus undergoes 4 stages of development. Initially, he embodies physical power, akin to an athletic champion or muscle man. In the next stage, he gains initiative and the capacity for planned action. The third phase portrays the animus as the word, often taking the form of a professor or clergyman. Finally, in his 4th manifestation, the animus becomes the incarnation of meaning. At this highest level, he serves as a mediator of the spiritual experience, infusing life with new meaning. The fully developed animus provides spiritual strength and unseen inner support, compensating for outer softness. In this form, the animus may connect a woman's mind with the spiritual evolution of her age, making her more receptive than a man to innovate ideas. Historical practices such as using women as diviners and seers reflect the positive influence of their developed animus, stimulating men to new ventures. The mature animus becomes a source of spiritual insight and strength, contributing to a woman's receptivity to progressive concepts and her potential to inspire others. The positive aspect of the animus can embody an enterprising spirit, courage, truthfulness, and, at its highest form, spiritual profundity. Through the animus, a woman can gain insight into the underlying processes of her culture and objective situation, fostering a more profound spiritual outlook. However, this requires the animus to transcend opinions that are beyond criticism. The woman must summon the courage and inner openness to question the sacredness of her own convictions. Only then can she be receptive to the suggestions from the unconscious, even when they contradict her animus opinions. This openness allows manifestations of the self to reach her, enabling a conscious understanding of their meaning. Projection of the animus. How do we deal with this issue? Initially, we recognize the spiritual principle in the external world, often in the figure of a father or someone assuming that role. Over time, it might manifest in a teacher, an older brother, a husband, a friend, and eventually intangible aspects of the spiritual realm like religious institutions, the state, society, and related structures. It's also present in scientific and artistic creations. Women often lack direct access to these objective aspects of the spiritual. Instead, they encounter them through a man who acts as a guide and intermediary. This guide then becomes the carrier or representation of the animus images, meaning the animus gets projected onto him. When the projection succeeds, when the image matches its bearer to some extent, there's usually no significant conflict. This situation may seem perfect, especially when the man acting as the spiritual intermediary also maintains a positive human relationship with the woman. This ongoing projection might be seen as an ideal relationship because it appears conflict-free, but the woman remains mostly unaware. Eventually, it becomes clear that staying unconscious is no longer suitable. Disturbances in what seemed like the perfect animus relationship indicate this realization. These disturbances can appear as nervous symptoms, physical ailments, anxiety, sleep problems, general nervousness, headaches, vision issues, and occasionally respiratory problems. The impact of the anima and animus on the ego is essentially the same. This influence is challenging to overcome because it is exceptionally strong, filling the ego with an unwavering sense of righteousness. Additionally, the cause of this effect is projected onto external objects and situations, stemming from the characteristics of the archetype. The archetype, being inherent, may explain the irrational yet unquestionable existence of certain moods and opinions. These are difficult to influence due to the powerful suggestive effect of the archetype, captivating consciousness like hypnosis. Often, the ego feels a vague moral defeat, leading to defensive, defiant, and self-righteous behavior, creating a harmful cycle that reinforces feelings of inferiority. In such a state, human relationships suffer as a sense of inferiority hinders mutual recognition, essential for any meaningful connection. People used to believe that their idea of my father or my mother perfectly mirrored the real parent. Saying my father made them assume it accurately represented the actual person. However, this belief doesn't make it a reality. In the psychological equation, when considering someone's idea of their father, let's call them X, it doesn't align with the actual person. X's idea is a mix of an incomplete real picture and subjective modifications. Praising or criticizing this idea unconsciously affects X, leading to psychic consequences. Comparing reactions with reality may reveal miscalculations, with the father's behavior contradicting the false picture. Yet X often believes they are right and blames the father when things go wrong. If X lacks a well-developed capacity for connection, eros, they may be indifferent or annoyed at the father's inconsistency, feeling hurt or misunderstood. Dissolving this projection is essential, but it requires more than just telling someone the right way. It's like trying to make someone see their faults, involving a deeper understanding that can be elusive, similar to expecting a respectable citizen to recognize themselves as a criminal. Fully transferring the animus image, as mentioned before, can bring satisfaction and a sense of completeness, but may lead to intense attachment and dependency. This attachment, known as transference, involves projecting expectations onto another person. For instance, when a woman transfers her animus image to a man, she expects him to fulfill functions like thinking and handling responsibilities that are underdeveloped within her. Similarly, when a man projects his anima onto a woman, he expects her to feel for him and build relationships on his behalf. This leads to compulsive dependence. However, this idealized projection does not last long, especially in close relationships, as the difference between the projected image and the actual person becomes evident. Archetypes like the animus don't perfectly match individual men, who have unique characteristics that deviate from any general expectations. Anima and animus projections have a significant impact, requiring moral and intellectual efforts to dissolve them. While not all aspects are projected, many surface in dreams and can be brought to awareness through analysis or active imagination. Although their effects can be made conscious, these elements remain beyond direct control, emphasizing the need to keep them in mind. Ongoing observation is vital in therapy to honor the unconscious and ensure its cooperation. In complex lives, environmental influences often drown out natural instincts, replaced by opinions and collective tendencies. Deliberate attention to the unconscious is crucial for balance, preventing it from becoming one-sided or stuck in unproductive patterns. These unconscious powers influence our lives, especially when ignored. To avoid being controlled by them, we must explore the depths of our psyche. When our expectations clash with reality, we may try to overlook differences or manipulate situations. This can lead to confusion and disappointment as we realize the mismatch between our idealized image and the actual person. Animus discernment. Discovering differences between our imagined ideal and the actual person can lead to confusion and disappointment. Attempts to deceive ourselves or manipulate the person to fit our ideal image may follow. This dynamic applies to both men and women, creating a complex cycle of influence between anima and animus, making relationships intricate. When a woman realizes the difference between the idealized image of a man, animus figure, and the actual person, it leads to inner conflict. To resolve this, she must actively distinguish between the inner image and the real man in her life. This points to the central challenge of the animus dilemma, centered around integrating the masculine intellectual aspect within herself. This highlights the challenge faced by contemporary women in establishing a connection with the masculine intellectual element, the animus. To successfully navigate this challenge, women need to fully comprehend and seamlessly integrate the animus into their overall personality. This task is considered one of the most crucial concerns for women in the modern era. Animus possession. When a powerful animus figure, often described as being possessed by the animus, becomes prominent, it often suggests that a woman hasn't given enough attention to her own masculine intellectual side. This may be due to underdevelopment or improper utilization of this aspect. Externally, it may seem like she's neglecting the feminine principle, with her behavior appearing overly masculine. However, this masculinity is a symptom rather than a deep problem, indicating an unrecognized masculine aspect within her. The noticeable display of masculinity signals a need for recognition of this masculine side. Engaging with the animus is the route for the feminine element to find its place. Merely pursuing intellectual or outwardly masculine activities may not fully address the animus dilemma. Many women in traditionally male-dominated fields still grapple with unresolved animus issues, sometimes identifying too strongly with the animus and neglecting the feminine aspect. The essential requirement is to seamlessly integrate feminine intellectuality, logos, into a woman's character and lifestyle, fostering a harmonious synergy between feminine and masculine elements, ensuring neither is relegated to the shadows. Animus stages. The initial step involves reclaiming projected aspects by recognizing their projection and separating them from external things. This seemingly simple task is challenging and may require letting go of something painful. Withdrawing the projection helps realize that the issue is an inherent quality within, not something external. The next step is understanding the nature and impact of this factor, the animus, known as the man within us, and distinguishing it from their own identity. Failure to do so can lead to identification with or being possessed by the animus, resulting in negative effects. When the animus overwhelms and sidelines the feminine aspect, it can lead to general depression, dissatisfaction, and a loss of interest in life. These symptoms indicate that one part of the personality is being deprived of vitality due to the animus taking over. The animus can disruptively come between oneself and others, as well as between oneself and life. Recognizing this possession is challenging, especially when deeply ingrained. Observing the impact on others and gauging their responses can assist in distinguishing the animus. This external perspective, derived from interaction with others, proves invaluable in the difficult process of clearly recognizing the animus and assigning its rightful place, often beyond individual capabilities. In relationships without a stable point of reference, breaking free from the controlling influence of the animus is nearly impossible. When identified with the animus, they might believe their thoughts, words, or actions are their own, but the animus can speak through one without one's awareness. It is often challenging to distinguish whether a thought or viewpoint is dictated by the animus or a personal conviction. The animus wields an aggressive authority and power of suggestion, drawing from its connection with the universal mind. Its suggestions gain strength due to a woman's passive thinking and lack of critical discernment. These opinions, confidently presented, align with the universal truths, but may lack consideration for specific or personal situations. While universally valid in principle, such judgments are limited in the complexities of real-life situations, potentially causing harm to the subject, the judgment recipient, or even the woman delivering the verdict without considering her personal emotional reactions. Animus expression. The animus often manifests through the formulation of judgments and extends to general thoughts in a woman's mind. These thoughts may seem complete and unquestionable, whether originating internally or adopted externally if they appear convincing or appealing. However, she often doesn't take the time to critically analyze or truly understand these ideas. Her undeveloped discrimination capacity leads her to treat valuable and worthless ideas equally because any notion hinting at intellect profoundly impresses her. While this tendency can make her susceptible to deceivers using a pseudo-spiritual front, it also has a positive aspect, rendering her open-minded, allowing her to identify and assess spiritual values quickly. In contrast, a man's strong critical faculties may make him skeptical and biased, requiring more time to recognize values acknowledged more swiftly by less biased individuals. In broad terms, the feminine mentality can be characterized as displaying qualities that are underdeveloped, childlike, or primitive. Instead of a keen thirst for knowledge, it often exhibits a tendency towards judgment and prejudice. Rather than engaging in critical thinking, it leans towards imagination and daydreaming. Instead of strong will and determination, there's a propensity for wishing and yearning. Commonly, they have thoughts suggesting how things should happen or what someone is doing, often without checking these intuitions against reality. They easily accept or assume them as true. and some imaginative ideas may even turn into real situations. The animus has a knack for creating idealized self-images, portraying them as the perfect lover, the endearing child, the selfless servant, the exceedingly original individual, or the born talent destined for greatness. This control persists until they willingly or forcefully let go of these embellished portrayals and confront their true selves. Feminine mental activity often involves retrospective contemplation of what could have been done differently in life, accompanied by thoughts on how things should have been handled. It can appear as if they are compelled to weave intricate chains of causality, labeled as thinking, but in reality it often serves to torment themselves. Within this context, there's a lack of discrimination between what is grounded in reality and what has been constructed through thought or imagination. Feminine thought, when not firmly rooted in practical common sense, tends to resemble dreaming, fantasizing, wishing, and sometimes even negative wishing. The power of the animus phenomenon stems from a primitive blending of imagination and reality. Thoughts originating in the mind can take on a quality of undeniable reality, making the animus's statements seem unquestionably true. Men typically have a natural tendency to understand the objects and situations they encounter. For instance, young boys often enjoy disassembling toys to understand their workings. In women, this inclination is generally less strong. They can use tools or machines without feeling the need to explore their internal workings. Additionally, women may be intrigued by profound-sounding words without necessarily understanding their exact meanings, while men often prefer to investigate the meanings of such words. The animus is most evident through words. The term logos also means word, appearing as a voice that commands on situations or gives general behavioral guidelines. This distinguishes it from the ego even before taking a specific form. The vocal expression generally takes two forms. Firstly, it critically assesses actions, often negatively, scrutinizing motives and intentions, leading to feelings of inadequacy and suppressing initiative or self-expression. It may also give excessive praise, causing fluctuations between worthlessness and an inflated sense of significance. The second mode involves giving commands, prohibitions, and stating widely accepted perspectives. These expressions highlight two important aspects of the logos function: discrimination, judgment, and understanding on one side, and the creation and establishment of general principles on the other. When the first mode dominates, the animus figure appears as an individual, and when the second mode is more prominent, it appears as a collective resembling a council. Discrimination and judgment are individual processes, while creating and abstracting laws involve agreement from many, better represented by a group. Feminine creativity. A woman's creativity surges as a potent force, radiating from the very core of existence. It boldly surpasses her biological role as mother, expanding into a profound act of shaping life in its entirety. This expression of creativity weaves through the diverse tapestry of her existence. As an influential educator, a dynamic companion with men, a nurturing force within the household, and in countless other forms that it may assume. At the heart of this creative surge lies the powerful cultivation of relationships, a genuine domain where the essence of feminine creativity takes root and flourishes. In the dynamic realm of the arts, especially within the transformative space of theater and drama, women emerge as formidable creators, achieving true parity with men. Through the arts, they breathe life into individuals, relationships, and the very fabric of existence itself, sculpting a narrative that mirrors the intense depth of human experience. In this arena, women stand shoulder to shoulder with their male counterparts, unleashing their creative powers with a resounding force that echoes equality and resonates with profound impact. In the midst of our turbulent era, defined by the disruptive forces of division that fracture societies, individuals, and the fundamental essence of existence, the call for unifying and cohesive influences resonates with unparalleled urgency. The very essence of life pivots on the harmonious interplay of both masculine and feminine energies. intricately woven within each individual across the expansive canvas of the world. The imperative of fostering the seamless integration of these opposing yet complementary elements emerges as a paramount objective in the realm of contemporary psychotherapy. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you found this insightful. I have also developed an app with the link in the description, available on the App Store, to help you learn how to interpret your own dreams. It includes symbols, examples, and more on Carl Jung's psychology.